Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This debate, this motion, comes against this background. The Vice-Chancellor of the Australian National University saying that universities have been left to bleed to death. The Vice-Chancellor of the Australian National University saying it's harder to understand why the university sector has been left to bleed, given what most might expect to be its pivotal role in the health of the economy. Quite bizarrely, the current settings under this Morrison government mean that the worst affected degrees are science and engineering. According to someone who you'd think would know a bit about science and engineering and degrees, the Vice-Chancellor of the ANU. So you can imagine the surprise of those of us who know what's going on at universities to see a notice, a motion on the notice paper congratulating the Morrison government for supporting Australian universities through the pandemic. It's like being in Crown Cuckoo Land. It's like being Alice in Wonderland. Monash University, which has a campus in my electorate, the Peninsula campus, had its revenue slashed by about $350 million as a result of this government's deliberate, repeated, not once, not twice, but 3 times amending legislation to prevent public universities from having JobKeeper when foreign students couldn't come here. Private universities, they're fine, as is apparently, incredibly rich mega companies and private all-men's clubs. But public universities, this government did everything that you could do to make sure that they didn't get JobKeeper. And what?
Order. The member for Dunkley is reflecting on the chair when you use the term "you."
I apologise, Deputy Speaker. The Morrison government and all of the members of it did everything they could by supporting the legislation to stop public universities from getting JobKeeper. Monash University had to scramble to keep operating. 7,000 personalised study plans to retain students. The university cut capital, cut non-salary expenditure, used up their resources, borrowed money, put $30 million of their own money into a hardship fund for international and domestic students because the Morrison government abandoned them. Executives took voluntary pay cuts. The university worked with the union for 277 voluntary redundancies and deferrals of pay increases. If any university, if any public institution of higher learning got through the COVID-19 pandemic, it's not because of the support of the Morrison government. It's because of the work they did, their students did, their workers did, their unions did to get through that challenge. If it wasn't bad enough that the Morrison government has walked away from all of these people and their jobs and their future, they're of course yet again contributing to undermine the Australian economy, because we know that universities drive economic growth. We know that before the pandemic, international education was Australia's 4th largest export industry. In Victoria, in my home state, $12.7 billion a year contribution, supporting 250,000 jobs across the Australian economy. Every dollar invested in higher education research and development is linked to a $5 return to GDP. Every dollar invested in university teaching and scholarship contributes to $3 of additional tax revenue. Every person who gets to live and experience university life and get a higher education has a greater opportunity to success and a fulfilled work and life. But yet, we have a sector that are going to lose $3.8 billion in revenue across last year and this year. We've got a sector that this government has abandoned. Members of this government should spend less time with ridiculous motions saying that black is white and more time actually lobbying the Prime Minister to provide the funding that Australians need to get the education for the economy and the well-being of our people.